على سيدنا محمد أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. With Ramadan 2 weeks away, and as we're used to usually starting, we start off with dua in our gathering. Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us its khayrat and its barakat and its goodness. Allahumma ameen. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا وتجاوز عن سيئاتنا. اللهم اغفر لصغيرنا وكبيرنا وحينا وميتنا وذكرنا وانثانا وشاهدنا وغائبنا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإيمان ومن أمته منا فأمته على الإسلام. اللهم بارك لنا في أعمارنا وفي أعمالنا وفي أرزاقنا وفي أهلنا وذوينا وأحبابنا. بارك اللهم لنا في ذرياتنا، بارك اللهم لنا في ذرياتنا. اللهم ربنا بارك لنا في أعمالنا. اللهم اهدنا إليك، اللهم اهدنا إليك، اللهم اهد قلوبنا إليك، اللهم خذ بأيدينا إليك أخذ الكرام عليك. اللهم ثبتنا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة. ربنا بلغنا رمضان، ربنا بلغنا رمضان، ربنا بلغنا رمضان. اللهم أعنا على صيامه وعلى قيامه على الوجه الذي يرضيك عنا. اللهم اكتبنا فيه من عتقائك من النار. اللهم اعتق رقابنا ورقاب آبائنا وأمهاتنا وإخواننا وأخواتنا وأزواجنا وذرياتنا من النار، وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار. Oh Allah, we call you and we pray to you and we beseech you. We ask you by your names and attributes to fill our hearts with your abundant mercy and to fill our homes with your abundant mercy. Oh Allah, we ask you to make us steadfast upon the right path. Oh Allah, we ask you to bless our lives and to bless our actions and to bless our time in this dunya and to bless our families and our children and our offspring. Oh Allah, we ask you to make this space, this masjid, a place of dhikr, a place of ibadah and amal. We ask you, Allah, to make it a place of activism and community and to use us for goodness. We ask you, oh Allah, to bless us to witness Ramadan. Bless us to pray its nights and fast its days. Bless us to be of those emancipated from hell in the blessed month of Ramadan. Oh Allah, we ask you by your names and attributes to make the best of our days, the last of our days, the best of our actions, the last of our actions, and the best of all days, the day we meet you and you're pleased with us. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Amma ba'd. Jazakumullah khair for coming out tonight, brothers and sisters. We have officially 2 weeks to the day until Ramadan starts. On this type of night, Friday night, April 1st, inshallah, 2 weeks from today, we're going to be starting our Taraweeh, inshallah. And we pray that it's a month of great khair for all of us, individually and as families and as a community and an ummah. Allahumma ameen. Every time when Ramadan comes around, we start speaking more about ruh, about the soul. And in the khutbah today we were mentioning that the reason why that's so essential is because what's front and center in everything I do, everything I say, everything I experience in my life and my time in this dunya is my ruh, is my soul. We experience things with our souls before we actually experience them with our bodies. And the alam of al-ruh, the world of the soul and the heart, is a very vast, vast ocean. The ocean of getting to know Allah and drawing closer to Him and overcoming our shahawat and our desires and rectifying our behavior. There's so much to talk about, and you can never end in growing in that regard. And what we were hoping to do tonight in this type of gathering was to have a discussion about a few critical things. We have 5 questions. We want to try to answer this. And having this in discussion format was important for us because we hear a lot of lectures, we hear a lot of khutbahs, but sometimes the information doesn't settle enough as much when we discuss it. We need to do ihya of the sunnah. We need to talk about it as a group of believers, as families. This is a sunnah that hopefully when we do it here, we could carry it back to our homes and have the same type of discussion at home. How can I really benefit from my worship? What does salah, siyam mean to me? How can it carry greater value? How could it really change my life? How could it go from being some raka'at that I do very quickly and mindlessly perhaps? Especially, many of us, we go through this, we grow through this. We have that part in our lives where perhaps salah really isn't, its meanings, its deep meanings aren't really having a deep impact on me. This is something that needs to be learned. I need to train myself to be able to do that. How can I really, how should spirituality look like? You know, that's a big question that we need to answer. All right, we come to the masjid for years. We attend durus, we attend khutab. Our children go to Quran school. We attend every Ramadan. We are there for al-Ashr al-Awakhir and khatam. What's it supposed to make me? How am I supposed to become as a person? Is it supposed to have any lasting impact on my behavior, my character? Is it supposed to transform the way I talk about things? You know, okay, if the answer is yes, then is it doing its job? بل الإنسان على نفسه بصيرة. Whenever we're talking about spirituality, it's for what we call introspection. Introspection is looking inside. Where am I in this regard? Who am I in this regard? Is my salah really stopping me from doing bad things? Is my Ramadan really changing my life? If it's not, and it's all just about headaches and tireless nights and pain and anguish because of not having enough caffeine, or it's full of just rituals on the outside, family invitations, azayim, and certain sweets, and all these things, they're not bad things. But if that's what my Ramadan is about, then how could I really change that? How can I bring more of a balance so that I find actually that after Ramadan, I don't end up falling into what most people fall into? Because many people during Ramadan, you find the general community flocking to the masjid. The one who prays and the one who doesn't pray. I've met people who intentionally told me before, they weren't shy about it. They said, we pray and we fast during Ramadan, and we've been doing this for years, but once Ramadan enters, we just leave the whole salah thing for Ramadan. We don't pray outside of Ramadan. And I was just kind of shocked at how blunt they were about it. Someone might do this and they might be embarrassed. Okay, well, I make mistakes and stuff. No, I pray and I fast during Ramadan, and, I go to the 27th night, and, hopefully it'll do the job. Hopefully, everything's multiplied by however many numbers, and, hopefully it'll do the job. That's it, I don't need to worry about it all year round. So how can I really go from it just being a dose once in the year to being something that's with me every single day? That's what we're hoping to achieve, Because when we look at the Prophet ﷺ's Ramadan, there were certain elements in his Ramadan that made it special. 4 things that you find in the Prophet ﷺ's Ramadan. The first thing is that we find the Prophet ﷺ had the element of temporary seclusion during Ramadan. Al-Uzla al-Marhaliyya. This is something that is vital. And we have a dars just about this. When do I need to have alone time away from my phone, my gadgets, and everything else, and just focus on my heart and Allah and my worship? He used to have this, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, every Ramadan, where he would disconnect from everything else. This is one thing that was a fixture in his Ramadan. Now, okay, Ramadan for a lot of people is about certain special shows, TV specials that come on in Ramadan on, certain networks, or it's about, actually trying to pass time by watching and busying myself more, because I can't stand being hungry or being thirsty or having that headache. I'm just trying to waste away time until it comes time for iftar and the dreadful experience will end, quote unquote. So this is the Prophet ﷺ teaching us that Ramadan needs to have certain iqbal with al-uzla al-marhaliyya, temporary seclusion. The other thing that we learn as a fixture in the Prophet ﷺ's Ramadan is this element of silence. It's not just about refraining from eating and drinking. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he tells us something. رُبَّ صَائِمْ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعُ وَالْعَطَشِ وَرُبَّ قَائِمْ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ إِلَّا السَّهَرِ. There are many worshippers who the only thing they get out of fasting is hunger and thirst. And the only thing they get out of praying at night is they get exhausted. It really is an awful thought to do all the work and then not walk away with anything. It's a very scary thought. There's actually a beautiful example of this. I won't take too long, inshallah. I'll finish in a few minutes so we could get the discussion started. But it's a beautiful example of this. They say it's like the one who carries a bag of full stones, a bag full of stones into the market. They say it's like كمثل رجل خرج إلى السوق وملأ كيسه حصى. This man is carrying a very big bag, and people might think it has really, this guy bought a lot of stuff, or he has a lot of money. He bought a lot of things, and he's carrying this bag in the market, and everyone's saying, oh wow, they're paying attention to what he has. But when he exposes what's inside the bag and spills it out, it's useless. It's worthless. No one would want it. So for a lot of people, that will be their experience وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, with their worship. On the outside, whoa, this looks impressive. Wow, this person's special. Wow, this person's a really good person. But on the Day of Judgment, when the haqq and the haqiqah is exposed, the reality is exposed, nothing's there. That's scary. So the Prophet ﷺ, the second thing he had as a pillar in his Ramadan was the subject of silence. How so? That's why he tells us, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَإِنْ سَابَّهُ أَحَدٌ أَوْ شَتَمَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي امْرُؤٌ صَائِمٌ. If someone was to curse you, if someone was to fight with you, then there's a certain reaction you should have as someone who is experiencing Ramadan spiritually. What's that? إِنِّي امْرُؤٌ صَائِمٌ. Samt, silence. That's the second pillar in the Prophet ﷺ's Ramadan. The third one is, Shaykh Ibrahim, وينك? ركز معنا. The third one is hunger. Hunger in the Prophet ﷺ's Ramadan was for a purpose. It's something important, because a lot of non-Muslims, they don't really understand this. When you talk about hunger and worship, they'd be like, okay, what's the point of, why would you guys torture your bodies like that? Why would you not eat and drink? That's like, especially when you're talking about in the summer, that's really hard to do. Why would you do that? Why on earth would God want you to do that? This is a shubha in a lot of non-Muslims' minds. But for us, it's not about the pain of hunger or thirst. It's not about that. The reason why it was a pillar in the Prophet ﷺ's Ramadan is because tahqiq al-ubudiyya. It is so that we could become real servants of Allah. And that's what fasting is about. That's what fasting is. What does that mean? That means when Allah tells us don't eat, we don't eat. And when He tells us eat, the best thing you could possibly do is eat. That's why ta'jeel al-fitr is actually a sunnah. When Maghrib comes in, it's sunnah to rush and eat after that. So that's the third thing in the Prophet ﷺ's Ramadan. Hunger, but not hunger for itself. Hunger because hunger is something that only Allah could see. And that's what we're really focused on. It's a very private act of worship. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal, He says in the Hadith Qudsi, الصَّومُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. Fasting is for me and I reward for it. And the last thing in the Prophet ﷺ's Ramadan that was special was wakefulness, sahar. The Prophet would do qiyam all year round. But there's something in Ramadan that he would do that he would never do outside of Ramadan. And that is, he would do ihya il-layl. The Prophet ﷺ would pray the full night. The rest of the year, he would pray part of the night and he'd sleep part of the night. But when it comes to Ramadan, it's so special that he gives it even a special attention in terms of its nights. He prays the full night. أحيا الليل كله أيقظ أهله, right? وشد المئزر وأحيا الليل كله. As the hadith mentions, he'd wake up his family. He wouldn't do it by himself, right? And then he would pray all night long. So there's a little bit about spirituality, Ramadan, some thoughts to try to get the ball rolling. Of course, the actual questions, Nail is going to read them out to you. Again, there are 5 questions. And when we start right now, for those who are watching through the live stream, we're going to be pausing it for each, or we're not going to be pausing it, we're actually going to take a 5-minute break from talking. You'll see something appear on your screens for 5 minutes, and each group is going to talk about the question and try to come up with some answers for the most significant things pertaining to each thing. And then hopefully you guys could delegate one person, and that person can share what the group said about whatever it is from the acts of, from the issues pertaining to worship, inshaAllah ta'ala. So I'm going to pass it over to Nail right now, and we're actually going to get started with the questions and the discussion. Please take it seriously. I know sometimes it's difficult to talk when you don't know everyone in the circle, but try to engage, because this is an important act of worship. You know, we might have, and of course, we're guilty of this sometimes. We might have people that we've been seeing for years in the masjid, and we've just been saying salam, but we absolutely know nothing about them. We might have people who are new with us in the masjid that don't really know many people. Please try to engage and try to get everyone involved, because the idea is I want to talk about it so I could at least get myself motivated to live by it, inshallah ta'ala, and we could carry this back home. So I'm going to pass it over to Nail now for the next segment, inshallah.
Okay. Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. So for now, this is the interactive session of the night, inshallah. So we'd ask everyone to get into groups. Everyone should have received a card which represents their group number, and we just ask, and there are these large white signs here for the group number. So we'd ask everyone just to get organized into groups, and like the Sheikh said, the idea is to engage everyone, so everyone has a chance to meet each other and get to know each other. And it's also the idea is also to have a chance to talk about some of these questions regarding spirituality, and also given the fact that Ramadan is coming up, there are some questions here about Ramadan. So we'll give everybody a few minutes, inshallah, just to get situated in their groups. We would ask each group to designate a group leader. There should be questions that we'll be passing around. You will have copies of the questions on the brother side and the sister side. And we just ask you guys to discuss them amongst yourselves. And then once we'll give a few minutes for each question. And then the idea is to get thoughts and feedback from each of the groups. And inshallah, the Shaykh can also comment and give also his thoughts and insight on some of the responses to the questions. So we'll give everybody a few minutes just to get situated.
And when you get in your group, if you could try to sit in halaqah form, so we should see like a bunch of circles around each one. Around each number, try to get in circle form, just so we can make it easier to interact with each other. If the numbers are too close to each other, you could separate them a little bit, just if you guys want space. So full halaqas. Let's see who's good at making circles. Let's see who's good at making circles. Ibrahim, do you have a number? Join a group, whichever group. All three of you. Join whichever group you see open. Everyone in the group? Sure.
All right, does everybody have the questions? I think everybody looks like everybody's in their halakha circles, mashallah, and then, oh, everybody has a copy of the questions? All right, let's get started. So the first question, inshallah, is what do you think are the biggest benefits of worship? And like we said, we just want to give everyone a few minutes just to kind of write down their thoughts, and then we'll be kind of calling out the group. We'll just be calling out a few groups to kind of for them to discuss their thoughts.
So try your best to just stick to the first question. Don't go to the next one until after we discuss the first one. So just only do the first question now, and try to also put your reasoning with whatever you put for the benefits of worship. Why do you think it's a big benefit of worship?
Okay, Bismillah. So who would like to? Which group would like to share their thoughts on the biggest benefits of worship? Inshallah, we can pass the mic around for those that would like to. What group is that? Group 7. Okay, inshallah. So we'll give the mic to Group 7, and they could share their feedback.
So we have achieving taqwa.
So, sorry, just before you continue, if everyone could try to give their undivided attention now to the one speaking. Now we're going to get back to the bigger group, and we're going to discuss the first question together, inshallah. So go ahead, brother.
Achieving taqwa, developing patience, healing the soul, developing connection with Allah, and prioritizing the akhirah.
Did you guys put any comments with it about your reason for the top one, if you were to pick one?
Achieving taqwa, right?
Give him the mic. Give him the mic.
Whenever we have like focus on the akhirah, like Surah Al-Duha, when al-akhiratu khayrun laka min al-ula, we are not concerned about the situation in the dunya. If something bad happens, we're like relying on the akhirah, so Allah will take care of us. So we feel good. So that's one our priority answer.
جزاك الله خير. الله يبارك فيكم. بارك الله فيك.
Is that it? Is that what you want to say?
Who else would like to share? You guys have one? Go ahead. تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum. We came up with 2 points. The first one is that it makes you a better person in the dunya. And the second is the rewards in the afterlife.
Beautiful responses. You want to ask?
Are there any sisters that have any thoughts that they'd like to share on the first question? Any? Okay. Well,
Over there. And then
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. لو حتى هنشوف آية واحدة بس اللي بتقول وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. أول حاجة ربنا خلقنا علشانها، فإحنا لازم نشوف ربنا سبحانه وتعالى خلقنا علشان إيه. غير كده الفوائد بقى النفسية سبحانه وتعالى، لما بنقول إن لما بيبقى لينا كبير بنرجع له سبحانه وتعالى في حاجات كتيرة قوي يعني أكبر من قدراتنا. ازاي نعيش من غير القدير، ازاي نعيش من غير العليم، ازاي نعيش من احنا اللي محتاجين لربنا سبحانه وتعالى. وطبعا في حاجه اسمها التخلي وبعدين التحلي وبعدين التجلي. الواحد لما بيتخلى من جواه من الحاجات السيئه وبعد كده بيتحلى بالحاجات اللي قال عليها ربنا سبحانه وتعالى، ربنا سبحانه وتعالى بيتجلى عليه باشياء تانية كلنا بنحتاجها في الحياه في الدنيا وطبعا في الاخره. وغير كده لو حضرتك هتبص في آيات القرآن هتلاقي ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. كل آيات القرآن حتى للي ما بيفهموش العربي قوي واللي هي الديب بتاع الحاجة المينينج، بس هتلاقي كلها أفلا تعقلون، أفلا تتذكرون، أفلا تتفكرون، أفلا. فاحنا بنشغل الحواس وبنربط هذا إلى بالله سبحانه وتعالى. يعني الواحد مش قادر يتخيل إن هو يعيش. أنا مش مصدقة إن في ناس ملحدة، إزاي نعيش وإحنا مالناش ربنا؟ يعني دي للإنسان اللي عنده فطرة سليمة مش صح. فاحنا محتاجينها جدا، وربنا سبحانه وتعالى هي زي أصل خلقنا علشان العبادة، وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا رب العالمين.
جزاكم الله خير. الله يبارك فيكم يا رب.
وفيكم.
Okay, before I share with you my comments, I think we had one more group over here that wanted to share some things for this question. So mashallah, this is becoming a very fruitful discussion. We have the benefit for the akhirah and the transformation of behavior, and also the serious sister mentioned the spiritual benefits of praying and doing worship. Now, you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think the ladies embarrassed us with such a comprehensive answer, but I'll try my best. So, I mean, ultimately, we concluded that our worship gives us a purpose, and it allows us to reach inner peace, and gives us a connection with Allah. And that connection also drives us with a fear of Allah. And we understand that it gives us rewards for all our actions. And ultimately, the reward in the dunya is that it gives us positive morals and the ability to recognize our blessings and appreciate it in the dunya.
Jazakallah khair. Allah yabarak feekum. MashaAllah, these are really good points. I think this question by itself, the benefits of worship, could have an entire lecture just by itself, by the way. I guess to comment on some of those things, worship for the soul is basically the cleansing tool for the heart. You have basar and then you have basira. Basar is with your eyes, basira is with your heart. Seeing with your heart and soul, and then seeing with your eyes. Two very different things. When you want to clean a glass service, you have certain chemicals you use, right? When you want to clean wood or metal or whatever it might be. You have, when you want to remove a stain, there's special chemicals you have for removing stains. When you want to be able to see with your soul, you have worship. And that's why the answer of taqwa that you guys gave is really important, because what taqwa does is it makes me be able to distinguish things spiritually. This is good, this is bad. I'm going to, it's like a furqan, it's a distinguishing element. I see this is as good, so I go towards it. I see this as bad, I avoid it. When someone doesn't really have worship in their lives, it makes them spiritually blind. And that's a really scary thing, to have. So that's one. The other thing that caught my attention in the things you guys said was about transforming behavior. And that's, of course, a critical one, because Allah Azza wa Jal gives the example of Iman in the Quran as a tree. You guys know that? Who knows what surah that's in? Who knows what surah that's in? Surah Ibrahim, right? It's like a tree. And when you think of a tree, there are basically three different parts of it that that clearly distinguish it. What are they? You got the roots, and that's what makes sure that it stays fixed in the ground. And then you have, what else do you have in the tree? You have its trunk and its what? Its branches, its structure, right? And then beyond that, if it's a tree that bears fruits, you have its what? You have its fruits. Those are three things. Same thing with Iman. When it matures, there's a thamara. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal gives us an example of a tree for believers. For believers in the Quran, and what faith could do to a person. There has to be a fruit for my worship. If it really doesn't do anything for me, then that means I really need to question how am I doing it. So I really like that. And I also like the point that you made about spiritual benefits. Because to be honest with you, if it wasn't for salah in our day, we wouldn't have something that will make us disconnect from the hustle and bustle, the routine. If it wasn't for salah, because salah is wajibah. You might stop to eat, drink, sleep, whatever. But salah, for the believer, is this obligatory thing that I have to stop right now and disconnect from everything else. And it gives me structure for my spirituality. Same thing with Ramadan, it gives me structure. It says, look, forget about your routine. You're going to make your own routine, and the center of your routine is going to be what? It's going to be worship. So that's one of the grand benefits of worship and ibadah. And there's so much more we could say, but those are just a few comments, just so we don't take too long, inshallah. So I'll give it back to Nail for the next question.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. So the next question, given that Ramadan is 2 weeks away, how do we find the right balance in Ramadan between worship, work, school commitments, family, and rest? I know we have there's a lot of brothers and sisters that are working, and we also have some of our young adults that are also attending school, and they're going to be observing the month of Ramadan, and they also have finals. So what are your thoughts on finding that balance, especially there's also family gatherings that we need to consider that people attend, and also finding time to rest. So we'll give everyone a few minutes to discuss this question and gather their thoughts. Okay, so which group would like to share their thoughts? So the question again is how to find the right balance in the Ramadan. So group 7 wants to go first again, inshallah. Let's give them a chance.
This time around, the groups, who were the groups that didn't talk last time? I know 9 didn't talk. Who else didn't talk? 2, 3. Please, the groups who didn't talk this time, try to share something too.
Assalamu alaikum. Oh, so basically, have intentions on all your actions and statements and try to be better than you were before Ramadan. So pick like a small consistent task that you normally don't do and implement it in your life. For example, if you only read 10 minutes of Quran, make it 20 or 30. Another example is if you normally pray at home, try praying at the masjid. Doesn't have to be something extreme, just choose like one little task and implement it like throughout the month, because Allah loves consistency.
Beautiful. Jazakallah khair. Allah yabarak feekum. Looks like number 9 they're going to share now.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So our group was thinking about the best thing to find the right balance in Ramadan between worship and work, school, etc. would be dedicating a special time, like make a special time after you get off work or get off school, and make it a daily routine. So once it becomes a routine, you will get used to it and you don't miss it. And if you have like time off from work, you can request it from your employer or whatever. You tell them, hey, I want a vacation during this time. So that's helpful as well. Minimize all the distraction. That's another big part of the problem. The social media, the TV, and etc. Utilizing any free time that you find to worship. So these are like great points.
جزاكم الله خير. الله يبارك فيكم. You want to try? Okay. So now we have group 10.
Assalamu alaikum. Sometimes like finding the right balance in Ramadan for like your prayer and everything might be challenging. So like it's good to set expectations. So yeah, I need to plan like what time you're gonna pray. A very common goal in Ramadan is to read the whole Quran. So maybe like have a plan to read 4 pages every salah, every prayer, and like maybe start ahead of Ramadan so you have yourself a head start. There's also like if you're in school, you ask whoever's there, like the principal or whoever's in charge of some sort, to like reserve a room for you at a certain time so you could pray. And yeah, it's just like that. Like you just have to plan for it so you're ready for it.
Jazakumullah khair. Very good answers. Now, any other groups that would like to share? Any other groups? We have the groups here. Group 2 wants to share something.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
For my answer, we wrote having a set routine, like incorporating acts of worship into your schedule, such as listening to podcasts while cooking and prioritizing worship.
Jazakumullah khair. Any other groups before we comment would like to share something? You guys want to share something? Group 6 wants to share something too.
كلنا عندنا في حياتنا يعني أولويات، فبنغير السكجول في رمضان. بدل ما في حد عنده أولوياته أولاده والمدارس، في حد عنده أولوياته شغله، في حد عنده أولوياته والديه. نغير الأولويات، نخلي الأولوية الأولى العبادة، لأن ده شهر في السنة مش هيكرر تاني. ويا عالم هيعدي علينا تاني أو لا، وحضرتك عارف حديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رغم أنف رغم أنف رغم أنف.
Guys, can you please try to pay attention to the sister talking?
قالوا له منهم قال من بما معناه من بلغ رمضان ولم يغفر له. فدي فرصة، وده زي كده بنقول اوكازيون ربنا سبحانه وتعالى عمله لنا في الطاعات. فلازم ايه، لازم ان احنا نغير الاولويات، نخلي اول حاجة العبادة. تاني حاجة بقى النية، نغير النية. لو انا نيتي ان انا اغير ده كله وبعد كده ما لقيتش وقت، عملت قدر ما استطعت وما لقيتش وقت لحاجة تانية، ببقى كده ربنا سبحانه وتعالى بيديني الثواب والنية. وحضرتك تعرف طبعا ان سلف الصالح كان بيجمع ثوابات كتيرة جدا بالنيات المتعددة للعمل الواحد. ثالث حاجة بعد كده الاستعانة بالله سبحانه وتعالى، لأن زي ما أنا قلت في الأول إحنا ما نقدرش نعيش من غير ربنا. يعني ما في ربنا الرسول في آية في القرآن بتقول للرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم نفسه: ولولا أن ثبتناك لقد كدت تركن إليهم شيئا قليلا. يعني لولا أن إحنا بنعينك كنت هتبقى مع الكفار شوية حتى، وده رسول الله، فما بالك إحنا. فمن غير استعانة بالله نحن نصل يعني لا شيء سبحانه. فالاستعانة بالله. تاني حاجة الاستعانة بالصحبة الصالحة، لأني برضو لما بلاقي حد بيعني على الصلاة على الصيام في البيت أو صاحب أو بره أو مسجد أو حاجة زي كده بتبقى. تالت حاجة بقى اتقوا الله ما استطعتم. أنا بعمل ده كله وبعد كده بعمل اللي عليا. بيبقى حتى حضرتك تعلم إن برضو كانوا السابقين بيقولوا بحتسب حتى نومتي في سبيل الله. لما بعمل ده كله حتى وانا نايم باخد اجر وثواب. ليه؟ لان انا نايم نيتي ان انا اقوم اصلي واعمل واعبد ربنا سبحانه وتعالى.
بارك الله فيكم. الله
وفيكم بارك يا رب العالمين.
I think we have one more group that wanted to share something. Go ahead, group 6.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so the month of Ramadan will actually give us the motivation to find the time that we normally don't use on normal days. For example, while we're working, have a lunch break. Instead of just doing lunch break, you could read the Quran with that too. There's a lot of time in between they can use for ibadah, for Quran, for these kind of things.
جزاكم الله خير. Barakallah feekum. So I'm going to read out to you guys what you guys said. MashaAllah, fuqaha. A lot of really good points collectively mentioned. First one was do something that's small but consistent, because Allah loves consistency. The second one was have a dedicated daily routine. And the third one was try to minimize the use of gadgets. And another fourth one was have a special plan with the Quran. And another one was make sure you make use of all free time, like free time at work. You got to change your priorities, another one that was mentioned. Make sure that you also make it a collective month. I liked that, someone mentioned have a daily routine, a set time every single day where you do something. Now, a few comments on these. Obviously, we all have very different schedules. Not everyone could stay awake. We were just talking about this, me and Nail. Not everyone could stay awake all night because you got work in the morning. And you got school in the morning. So how am I really supposed to strike this balance? He mentioned, and this year this is for the students. You guys, many of you might have spring break during Ramadan. That's something you could take advantage of. Take advantage of that week to be around the masjid, make good use of it. And then another thing was the time off from work. I know someone, I'm not going to mention his name, he's from our community. He would gather all of his days off and use them in Ramadan. That was his vacation. Instead of using his days off for anything else, he would make his vacation days in Ramadan, and he would actually, because he worked at his job for a long time, he was able to take off the whole month. And that became his regular routine every single year. And that requires sacrifice, because sometimes people say, well, I don't have time, but all of a sudden, right after Eid, they're able to go on 1 week vacations or 10 days off of work and go travel here and there. It's all about priorities. What am I willing to sacrifice for? The collective thing, and this is something, because this is supposed to be like a family activity, right? Ramadan's a very collective month. It's not supposed to be a month where I do something all by myself and that's it. I found one of the beautiful practices that families, when they make sure to use that last hour before iftar for dua, for adhkar, and also before anyone touches the food that we do, or at the time of eating, that we make sure that we do as a family. We teach our children dua al-iftar, the dhikr that we should do and the dua that we should make at the time of iftar. And then prioritize maghrib before stuffing our faces. break the fast, then pray Maghrib, then come back and eat as a family. That, teaching ourselves those types of priorities is critical. The minimizing the gadgets thing, I also can't agree more with this. Our gadgets already do so much to eat away at our time. We shouldn't let it take away from our Ramadan. Wallahu a'lam. I think for the next questions, if you agree, Nail, maybe if each group could just mention one point. Don't mention more than one point. It's just so we don't stay here till 11 o'clock, inshallah. So we can finish quicker, inshallah. We got 3 more questions.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. So
Jazakumullah
the next
khair.
question is, what are the most common challenges faced in Ramadan, and what are some solutions for these challenges?
So pick one you're going to say and mention its solution. The challenge and the solution. What do you think is the biggest one?
Most common challenges. For me, sometimes it's just for me really to finish the khutbah. For me, it's challenging. Last year was the first year where I was listening to a lecture, and they said, your goal is not just to finish it. So last year I didn't do that. I actually read the tafsir of tafsir al-Kabir, was to Baqarah. So I did that for Ramadan. So the tafsir, if you consider, it's a pretty long, tafsir. So I think I didn't finish it, but I got up to almost 2:30, 2:40.
That's great.
Yeah. So just to really get the deeper meaning behind that. So
I think for me, it's just monitoring the food intake. Especially because I have a lot of speaking engagements and the tilawa and
Yeah.
So the worst thing that I would experience in Ramadan is if I ever had, it's hard to have a normal iftar. If I have my stomach's filled, I'm going to feel it during salah.
Okay. Yeah.
During the khawata. It's just exhaustion or discomfort in reading or whatever.
Yeah.
So you gotta just try to reduce the food intake as much as possible, especially since the stomach gets smaller.
Yes.
So get stuffed
that's
faster.
that's always a challenge for everyone. What I did was, when I started doing is I would eat. I would have my iftar, and I would go tarawih, but then I wouldn't eat. That was affecting my sleep and my digestion, so I wouldn't eat after I got tarawih.
Sorry, I can't go downstairs for my door. I just want to check.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So that way I'm not, when I can go to sleep, my stomach is not full, and I'm sleeping, it's not good health.
Yeah, of course.
So I found it to be better, and then I still wake up for school. So I feel that it's just, you feel better about yourself, and that's how you actually, one of the ways you lose weight, because if you overeat,
Have the opposite effect.
Yes, exactly.
So you have late iftars.
I have a good iftar.
You have a good iftar.
Good iftar, but I won't eat anything after that.
Until
Until school. Until school. I mean, I can have water or things like that, but I won't have sometimes I would have as snacks or sweets or things like that. I wouldn't have that after the week, so I can just give my body a break. Are we doing okay on time, or are we a little behind? It's 9:48, so try to aim to wrap up by 10 to 05.
Yeah, you want to try to finish by then?
Yeah, it's 10 to 05. Yeah. Start? Okay, bismillah. So who would like to discuss their responses? Group 7, inshallah.
So you guys ready to reconvene, inshallah? Everyone, if you guys could please give your attention to the ones speaking. Barakallah feekum.
One of the big problems we agreed on is that we face as Muslims in Ramadan, especially in North Jersey, a busy schedule, and a lot of us have to get to where we got to get to the next day.
Can you bring it up more?
We have to get to where we have to get to the next day. Our schedule has to get back. So we all felt that focusing on good quality is much more beneficial than focusing on quantity. So like when we're in the Taraweeh, we could focus on doing the 8 instead of doing the 20, and we in our mind we're going to be worried about the next day. But if we do the minimum or like a good amount, we could good quality and feel good about it, and then go to the next day again and again. Same thing with everything else, Quran. We want to read as much as we can, but let's focus on giving good quality, and each time we read and recite and memorize, so that we could, feel it more than just rushing through. That's our aim.
Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek. Who else would like to share? Which other group? Go ahead. Group 6.
Assalamu alaikum. Just to kind of piggyback on Group 7's answer, one of the most common challenges that we face in Ramadan is spiritual burnout, right? Spiritual and mental and even physical burnout. Like we get into Ramadan all excited, first 10 days, we're all in and we're doing all the Taraweeh and all the ibadat, and then we find ourselves during the middle of Ramadan, we're burnt out. So one of the solutions to that is is two-faceted, right? The first one would be better preparation. The Sahabi used to prepare 6 months in advance for Ramadan, and I feel like that's something we should try to implement in our lives, and I feel like that would help approach Ramadan and avoid that burnout, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakumullah khair. Allah barik fikum. Who's the next group that would like to share? Anyone else would like to share something for this point? All right, we got group 10. So we got group 9, 6, 7, right? And then 10. I think group 8 disappeared.
Assalamu alaikum. So the one we agreed on was thinking a consistent sin that was being committed before Ramadan was influenced by the shaitan, but it was actually your nafs. And the solution we came to this, it all came back to self-control. However, preoccupying yourself, the remembrance of Allah, and yeah, self-control in general, we would say solutions.
Jazakallah khair. All right, you want to pass it over to group 9? Okay, go ahead, group 9. Jazakumullah khair. Then after that, we'll come over to the sister side, if any sisters want to share anything, inshallah.
So we came up with, a lot of great points here. So our group was thinking about, living in a society where the majority of people are not fasting is full of challenges. And one challenge that we can add to everyone else here is avoiding overeating. So it's like food coma. So that's like a big challenge, especially if you get invited over to like a nice iftar and full of food. So that's a big challenge.
Yes, I know. That is. Jazakallah khair. All right, pass it over to the sister side. Any sisters would like to share something? Oh, mashallah. We have someone here.
A challenge is like you have to fast from not only eating but doing bad things. And a solution is like making that, using your time wisely. During the time you can't do any of those stuff.
Jazakallah khair. That's a very good answer. Using time wisely and making dua. Jazakumullah khair. Who else would like to share something? Anyone else before we share our comments? All right, I think this is shaping into a really good discussion. So here we got some things. First, yeah.
I would also like to share one more. Did you guys want to share one more?
You want to share one more? Go ahead. MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
Food and drinks being in front of you, like you would like if there's like food, like you're outside in the mall and you go in front of a place, like for example you see Taco Bell and you see people eating, yeah, you would just step away and ignore it.
Okay, so seeing Taco Bell, and then the solution is ignoring it, right? Very good. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. So we have a bunch of really good points here. One of them is the food intake, and this was a really important one. Because it ends up taking a toll on a lot of people's Ramadan. If you end up eating normally, you come to Taraweeh, you're half awake, you can't wait till the Shaykh's done, and if it takes a little long, you get really upset. The food intake is a really big problem, especially when you have big azaim with 10 different types of foods on the table. So how to really monitor this is a really big one. The other one that I saw is everyone's real busy and choosing quality over quantity. And I know many people mentioned this with their khatam. The interesting thing about this is they say that there's different readings of the Quran. And this is really important for everyone to note. Because for many people, their only relationship with khatam in Ramadan is about reading as fast as you can because you don't want to get behind on the juz' and you want to make sure you get in at least one, or for some people 2, or some people 3, or some people 4 khatams in the month. But there's actually different readings. There's one qira'ah for fahm, for understanding and tafsir. And then there's another one for just ibadah, because the Quran itself, reading it by itself is just a form of ibadah. Our Prophet ﷺ also would actually do this, by the way, during Ramadan. He would go through all of the Quran, all of what was revealed at the time, with Jibreel alayhi salam, as is mentioned in the hadith. So it's important to have more connection with the Quran, but at the same time, considering quality, you should also have a surah that you choose, mathalan. All right, I'm going to try to read as much as I can, but I'm going to focus on Surah Al-Mulk, mathalan, or Surah Al-Kahf. And I'm going to make that my focus in terms of studying its tafsir and listening to a lecture or reading a book about it. Wallahu a'lam. So that's a really good one. Burnout, that's a real big thing for a lot of people. That's why you guys know, we know this because every year we're focusing on the attendance and how to organize people. So there's this very big U that you find in every Ramadan. You guys know about the U? Who knows about the U? You guys know about the U? So first things go up, and then there's like this. So you have this steady increase in the beginning, and then it dips, and then it goes back up. So you got like this U, or whatever you want to call it. So in the middle of the month, it's very well known, like from the first few days, after the first few days, people get a little tired of the whole daily thing, so they'll disappear until the last 10, or some of them until the odd of the last 10. So, Allahu Alam, that's something to really focus on. How to pace myself and make sure I could continue to do what I'm doing. A lot of other good points were mentioned, but I'll just leave it at that so we could get through the last 2 questions and we could be done. Inshallah, we'll try to finish in 10 minutes, inshallah. Try to finish in 10 minutes.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. So the next question is, what are the most effective ways to grow spiritually? And
again, try to focus on one. Each group focus on one. And let's get through the last 2 questions, inshallah. Most of
Okay, we're going to start inshallah. So this time, just due to the time, we're going to select 3 groups to share their thoughts. So the first 3 groups that would like to volunteer, we'll discuss it. So we'll go with group 6, 9, and anyone from the sisters, and we'll go with group 2, inshallah.
3, 6.
Assalamu alaikum. All right, so the point we came up with is to work on your nafs, on yourself. Everyone knows their weaknesses. You take your own weakness and you improve on that.
Jazakallah khair. So identifying weaknesses as being one of the most effective ways to grow. Okay. Now group 9.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
So we're going with Suhba Salihah, good companionship.
Alright. Companionship. Jazakallah khair. That's a really good one. One of the most effective ways to grow is to be around good company. And then the last group, group 2.
Humbling yourself by identifying blessings.
What is it?
Humbling yourself by identifying blessings.
Humbling yourself by identifying blessings. Alright, so inshallah the next question will do the other groups that didn't talk for this one. So make sure you prepare yourself. But I guess just a few quick comments. So we have identifying weaknesses. This is really definitely an important one. And that's because we really can't grow if we're not willing to be honest with ourselves. And if I think everything's great about who I am, then, they say, أصل كل مصيبة وأصل كل ذنب الرضا عن النفس. They say that the source and the core of every calamity that strikes a person is for people to be okay with the status quo. I'm great, khalas, what do I need to fix? I give people, I help, I give charities, I pray. The mu'min never talks in this language anyway. So identifying weaknesses. The companionship is of course a very obvious one. And this is actually a sign of tawfiq. If Allah blesses me to be around good people and makes those in my inner circle good advisors, that means Allah wants goodness for the person. And then humbling yourself by realizing the blessings, of course, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. And if you were, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you were to observe gratitude, I'm definitely going to increase you. This is what Allah Azza wa Jal, He says. One way, and Nail and I were talking about this right now, is the idea of plateauing. When you're trying to grow spiritually, if you feel like you things have become a little stagnant, right? You need something to inspire you, right? إِنَّ الْإِيمَانَ لَا يَخْلَقُ فِي جَوْفِ أَحَدِكُمْ كَمَا يَخْلَقُ الثَّوْبِ. That your iman's going to wane and weaken. That doesn't mean you're going to stop praying or fasting. You might still be praying or fasting, but khalas, you just need something to revive you. فَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ أَن يُجَدِّدَ الْإِيمَانَ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. The solution to growing spiritually is to realize that there is a huge variety in worship. There are so many ways to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. And not everyone has everything. Some people, they might be really good at reciting Quran. It really helps them big time. Some people, their strength might be in fasting. And it really affects them spiritually. For some other people, fasting has lesser of an effect among the acts of worship. Other people, it's giving. And it's sacrificing their time and volunteering. So a solution is, I need to diversify my portfolio of worship if I want to grow. So Allah Alam, that's my comments on this, and I'll leave you guys with the last question.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. And the last question is, why is spirituality so vital in our lives today? So why is spirituality so important in our lives today? So we'll give everyone a few minutes to discuss.
So the ones that didn't answer are
Okay, bismillah. So we'll get started, inshallah. So maybe we'll give group 7, group 10, and group 4 a chance to discuss their thoughts.
group 7, 10, and 4, huh?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So the question was, why is spirituality so vital in our lives today? All right, so the answer was, we came up with was, without spirituality, there is no connection to Allah, and therefore we are completely lost and misguided. And the perfect reference is from Surah Al-Asr. By time man is in loss, except those who believe and do righteous deeds, and so on.
Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek. Allah yahfadkum. And now group 10, right?
So it gives us a purpose and it helps us find our identity.
Can you raise your voice?
It gives us a purpose in life and it helps us find our identity.
All right, identity and purpose.
Yeah.
All right, Jazakallah khair. And one more group. Group 4. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. We said so many societal changes will allow you to lose your identity. Without strong spirituality and a connection to Allah, you won't be grounded in truth, sound judgment, and peace.
Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah feekum. So social struggles and changes. This is the last question, and I put this question in there because, more than ever, people are realizing that it's really important to have a sense of spirituality. Even non-Muslims, by the way. There's this thing today that someone might say, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. Because they realize that the soul needs some attention. They even realize this. And the reason why is because we have the opposite extreme everywhere around us today. That with materialism bombarding us from every single angle, social media, the advertisements, the shows, the movies, entertainment, everything you could possibly think of really takes away that opportunity to grow spiritually. So that's one reason that I could think of why spirituality is so critical today, because we live in a time where there is طغيان المادية, as they say, that there is a rampant sense of materialism and individualism. Other reasons you guys mentioned, misguidance, identity and purpose, and also the social struggles, I think all relate back to that same point. So Jazakumullah khair for sharing that, and I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. By a show of hands, how many of you guys like this type of format to do occasionally for our community hub? Raise your hand. You guys like this type of format? Okay, great, alhamdulillah. Many people, they liked it. Inshallah, we'll try to do it for different subjects, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and we'll try to be creative. Jazakumullah khair. Do you have anything else to say, Naid?
No, Jazakumullah khair, everyone, for attending. Inshallah, everyone found this to be beneficial. We will be having one more community hub next Friday, inshallah, and then we will take a pause for the community hub during Ramadan. So, Jazakumullah khair, enjoy the rest of your night.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. During Ramadan, by the way, we're going to have a different format. We're not going to have community hub, but we're going to have Friday and Saturday i'tikafs. And in each i'tikaf at 12 a.m., we're going to have a lecture, inshallah.